All right, so you turn on your kitchen faucet, fill up a glass, and take a sip. But have you ever actually stopped to think about the crazy journey that liquid took just to get to your kitchen? Today, we are settling a totally fascinating, high-stakes discussion, the great water debate between well water and municipal water. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly where our tap water comes from, what might be secretly hiding inside it, and how to make absolutely sure the water you and your family are drinking is pristine. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by getting to know your water source. Check out what's in well water and then trace the municipal water journey. After that, we'll talk about the golden rule of testing first, matching solutions to your problems, and finally, maintenance and retesting. Whether you're living way out in the country pulling from a private well or you're right in the heart of the city on the municipal grid, I promise we've got your specific situation covered today.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, Know Your Water Source. This is the origin story of your tap water.
Figuring out your filtration setup absolutely has to start with the source itself. Take well water, for example. This stuff is pulled directly from the earth, straight out of underground aquifers. It is raw, it's natural, and it is completely untreated at the source. But then you have municipal water, which takes a totally different path. It's treated at these massive centralized facilities and then pumped to your home through heavily regulated systems. This one fundamental difference is basically what dictates exactly what kind of filtration your house actually needs. Now, you might hear the word aquifer a lot when we talk about well water. Simply put, an aquifer is just an underground layer of permeable rock or other materials that naturally holds groundwater. Think of it like nature's giant underground storage tank. When you're on well water, this is your direct supplier. Moving on to Section 2. What's in well water? Welcome to the Wild West of groundwater. See, because there's no centralized treatment plant acting like a bouncer at the door, well water can carry a whole host of unexpected guests. We're talking about bacteria, we're talking about nitrates, which, by the way, are often tied to agricultural runoff or a nearby septic system. Then you've got your hardness minerals, plus iron and manganese, which are just absolutely brutal on your plumbing. And, depending entirely on the geology of where you live, you might even be dealing with arsenic or other heavy metals.
But here is the real plot twist. Some of these contaminants are completely invisible to taste or smell. You literally cannot just hold a glass of well water up to the light, take a sip, and say, "Yep, tastes fine to me." It might look crystal clear. It might even taste amazingly cold and refreshing, and yet it could still be carrying microscopic threats. Our human senses just aren't built to gauge safety here.
All right, Section 3, the municipal water journey. This is the trek from plant to pipe.
So municipal supplies are heavily engineered to meet strict safety standards, and they pull this off through a pretty rigorous multi-step journey. Step 1 is heavy-duty disinfection. They often use chlorine or chloramine to just knock out any biological threats. Step 2 is sediment control, basically getting all the physical particles out of there. And Step 3 involves extra processes that depend entirely on how good or bad the initial source water was. Now, in a lot of places, this whole gauntlet of treatment does a fantastic job lowering the chances of seeing those well water contaminants we just talked about. But the story doesn't end at the plant. Even after all that intense centralized treatment, some pretty crazy challenges can pop up on the journey to your actual faucet. You've got distribution conditions messing with the quality. You've got corrosion happening in older plumbing. There are seasonal changes and local source water variations. Plus, a ton of people have to deal with the super distinct taste and odor of the chlorine that was used back in Step 1. And honestly, perhaps the most concerning part, you have the very real risk of lead and other metals leaching directly out of aging pipes right before the water hits your glass.
And that is exactly why we need to talk about point-of-use filters. These are filtration devices installed right at a specific tap, like, say, under your kitchen sink. For folks on municipal water, especially if you're living in a home with older water lines, these things are an absolute game changer. Instead of trying to filter the entire house, the goal here is a highly targeted improvement to reduce your exposure to specific metals, like lead, right at the exact spot where you fill your drinking glass.
Which brings us to Section 4. Test first, then filter. This is the golden rule of water. I want to pause for a second and just ask you this directly. With all these different sources and the aging pipes and the completely invisible contaminants we've talked about, how do you actually know what filter you need? Well, the answer is the absolute golden rule of water safety. Test first, then filter. Honestly, just going to the store and blindly buying a prepackaged system is basically just guessing. To get it right, you absolutely have to match your filtration setup to your specific measured issues. So here is your step-by-step action plan to do this the right way. Step 1. Request a proper laboratory analysis or use a certified testing service. You need the hard data. Step 2. If any of those levels come back elevated, review the results with a qualified professional. Step 3. Match your filtration directly to those measured issues. This is especially critical for wells, where the right solution can vary wildly depending on your exact location and the aquifer, meaning any quote-unquote typical filtration advice is pretty much useless.
And this brilliantly illustrates Section 5, matching solutions to problems. Let's play matchmaker.
Let's map out your exact plan of attack based on the source material we're looking at. If bacteria is the problem, you need microbial testing and specific disinfection that is verified to handle that exact organism. Got elevated nitrates or dissolved contaminants? You need systems designed specifically for dissolved removal. Are you constantly scrubbing iron or manganese stains? Sediment and specialty media are going to be your best friends. If your city water tastes or smells strongly of chlorine, activated carbon filtration is the go-to fix for that. And finally, if there's a risk of lead or corrosion from old pipes, you want certified point-of-use filters installed right where your exposure is the highest. See, it's all about precise, targeted solutions.
Finally, Section 6, maintenance and retesting. This is the long game.
Because here's the thing, installing the filter is literally only half the battle. Maintenance matters so much. These filters require replacement on a strict schedule, and a lot of systems need periodic inspections. If you just skip the maintenance, you aren't just reducing how well the filter works, you can actually create brand new problems. This is super true for carbon media and sediment filters, which can get heavily clogged or entirely saturated if you neglect them.
And keep in mind, your environment is always changing, which means, you guessed it, you have to retest. But the triggers for when you should retest depend totally on your source. If you're a well owner, you need to be retesting on a regular, set cadence. And you absolutely must retest after any flooding, nearby construction, or changes to how the land around you is being used just to catch any shifts early. Now, for municipal customers, your triggers are a bit different. You want to retest if you suddenly notice a change in taste, color, or odor, or if you know that local infrastructure, like they're tearing up the pipes down the street, has recently changed.
Ultimately, whether your house needs the heavy lifting of a full well water setup to make up for not having a central plant, or you just need some targeted improvements for your municipal tap water, it all boils down to this fantastic quote from our source material. The most reliable way to pick the right filtration is to determine what is actually in your water, then select certified treatment designed to address those specific findings. Testing is, without a doubt, the ultimate truth.
Which leaves us with one final super important thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. With underground aquifers constantly shifting and aging city infrastructure changing literally every single day, do you really know what's flowing out of your tap right now? Grab a testing kit, stay curious, and hey, here's to crystal clear, perfectly safe water in your future. Thanks so much for joining me today.